Good morning, this is Debbie Davis. It is Monday, August 11th, and wanted to talk about a few things. We have some interesting things happening with the moon over here. I've been taking pictures, and but I did receive a phone call back from the Mankato police that I had touched on just the last video. I haven't talked to them yet, but the main thing I was inquiring about is that there was this ghost gun in this incident, this murder that happened a couple years ago, and I was wondering if it was related to this ATF gun walking thing that that goes back to Arizona, and because a lot of them were ghost guns. A lot of them had no serial number. Okay. And so that's what I was trying to explain to him. But then the one guy that I talked to said, well, ghost guns are legal. And it's like, and then I looked up the law, and it clearly states that a gun without a serial number is not legal. I mean, think about how scary that is. Anybody could buy a gun like online and just put it together themselves. And especially somebody who has already a criminal background. And the first guy that I talked to, he's like, oh, they're totally legal. And I'm just like, I mean, if that's not scary, I don't know what is. So you're telling me it's illegal to have a ghost gun, and that means that somebody that already has like 10 felonies or something could just still buy a gun. See, that's why it's like to me, that should be obvious how dangerous that is. But apparently it wasn't obvious to them, Well, they are legal. And it's like, then I look up, the law stating, saying, is a gun without a serial number legal? And it says, no, it's not legal. So how are these ghost guns legal? But that's not really the problem that I've had. That's not so much the problem that I've had with the police. The main problem is that they don't do proper investigations, and then and then when a story comes out, and it states, this person was arrested, they don't ever give their names. So I mean, we don't even know if this really happened because we can't follow up on a name. Okay, and we can't track if this was even a real person because you don't give the name, you don't get any information, and then it says they tracked the guy down. He murdered somebody. They tracked him down with GPS. Yeah, we know that you have this GPS tracker information that you can use, the police can use. And you also abuse that authority. And you've abused it on me, illegally following me for no reason, with no warrant. Okay, and that's the problem that I have. Okay, but to me, to think that, for you to say that oh, they're totally legal, then it would be like, I mean, how would you like it if somebody is your next door neighbor that's already committed, it's already a felon that has committed multiple gun crimes and is now out, and then they purchase a ghost gun and they come over and kill your whole family? Are you okay with that? Because it's totally legal, right? I mean, just think about the consequences of them being legal. It's like they're not thinking logically. That means if these ghost guns are legal, and if anybody can purchase these and just put them together yourself, then it means that somebody that's already a murderer that is now out can purchase them. Okay, so to me that should be like a whole subject that should be talked about. So anyway, but that's not what I wanted to mainly do the video on today. But I'm just noticing how these things with the moon. Okay, so August 2nd, there was a eclipse here, and I took a picture of it. Okay, and I mean, we can barely see it because it was covered partly with the clouds. Okay, but it was red. It was red. It was a blood moon. Because at first I thought it was a sunset because it was reddish, but the sky wasn't pink around it. It was just the moon. And I'm like, what is that? Is that the sun setting, or is that? And it wasn't. It was the moon. Okay, so. Okay, see if you can see. It's hard to see. Okay, so you can't even see it in this picture. Okay, right here. I can't even see it. Right there's a moon. Let's see if I can. See that they're always messing with my camera. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh, seriously, you still can't see it. Okay, there was a moon. But I've sent it to some people, and the moon was a blood moon. This was August 2nd, so I saw it in the sunset. It looked to me like a sunset, but there wasn't the pink around it. Okay. And it was a full moon. Okay. To me, that was a blood moon. And it says that, the blood moon represents judgment. You know, when you see that moon, and there's the signs of judgment, and God, and will be if they call it the great and terrible day, and the signs will be earthquakes and these blood moons. Okay. All right. So, and then the other thing that was weird is that just the other day, just last night, or 2 nights ago, there was a full moon again. Okay, and so this was, yeah, okay, so August 4th, there was a full moon. I mean, they're totally messing with my phone here. I don't know how to adjust it so you can see my pictures, but right up here, there's a moon, okay? There's a full moon. It was August 4th, okay, and I got the picture here. But then there was another full moon just just 2 nights ago. Okay, so and then and these full moons are not supposed to be within a week from each other. They're supposed to be every 29 days. They're not supposed to be a moon every week, a full moon. Okay, so this is an anomaly that's going on here right now with these moons, and it looks like it was closer. It looked like it was closer to the Earth, and it looked like it was shimmering, kind of reddish. And this was just 2 nights ago. Okay, so this was just 2 nights ago. It was a full moon. Okay. Oh yeah, you can see that. Yeah, that is a huge moon. Okay, and we had a full moon, like I said, August 2nd, August 4th. Okay, and this was just 2 nights ago. It was a huge moon, and it was like pinkish. Okay, and it's not supposed to be a full moon. A full moon is only supposed to be every 29.5 days. Okay, so it doesn't make any sense to me. It seems like this is part of the judgment that they talk about, the great and terrible day of the Lord. Okay, what does it say? So, okay, the great and terrible day of the Lord, it's a time when God will judge the wicked and deliver the righteous, often associated with the second coming of Christ. For the wicked, it will be the day of destruction and punishment, while for the righteous, it will be the day of deliverance and establishment of God's kingdom. Okay, the cataclysmic events will be the signs will be natural disasters such as the darkening of the sun and the moon. So I don't know if I haven't seen the sun being blackened out. Well, we have had eclipses. Okay, 2 years in a row we've had eclipses. So that was probably the sign there. 2 years in a row we had eclipses on April 8th. on 2023 and 2024, and then now the moon is looked like a blood moon. Okay, and then it says other earthquakes and calamities. So haven't we had tons of earthquakes and calamities? These are the signs. These are the signs of the great and terrible day of the Lord. The day will reveal who truly fears God and who does not, leading to a final separation between the righteous and the wicked. Okay, there'll be a full separation. That's why I say it's time to make your decision now, because we're in these times. Okay. Okay, and then I wanted to talk about the covenants of God, how He has. So, if people don't remember, there was a Mayflower covenant on this land already. There was a covenant with God because of the Mayflower Compact, and okay, so I'm just going to play this because this goes back to when
this webinar is titled "The Pilgrim Story: The Mayflower."
Okay, the Mayflower. So I'm trying to remember the year. This was 1600, I think. When the Mayflower boat came over here, and we have some Mayflower descendants here in Minnesota, and they're kind of scattered all over, but they were pilgrims that came over that were trying to get away from the persecution from England, Britain, of the Christians. And clearly here it says that there was pilgrims that were Christians, and they made a covenant with God, a Christian covenant with God on this land.
An American Civil Covenant. Remember that there were 52 pilgrims on the Mayflower, 26 sailors, and 24 others. Their official papers were for Virginia, not for Massachusetts. So some of the sailors and others indicated that they were going to do as they pleased once on shore, that there was no official authority over them at this location. This was very concerning to the pilgrims and to others that didn't have these sentiments. Well, it turns out that the pilgrims back in 1606, because of persecution in England, had to practice self-government at a congregation level. They established a spiritual covenant, a religious covenant, a self-governing church according to the ordinances of God, where they elected their own leaders. And so they had some experience in self-government. Well, their pastor, John Robinson, gives them some good advice in this area. He says, first deal with your relationship with God and one another, i.e. practice religious liberty. Be right within yourselves and with other people. Second, this sets the atmosphere for civil liberty. He goes on, whereas you're to become a body politic, administering among yourselves civil government, and are furnished with persons of no special eminence above the rest, i.e. there's no lords or people of title that have traveled over here, you're all equals, from whom you will elect some to the office of government, let your wisdom and godliness appear. So choose people that are capable and full of character to be your civil leaders, and things will go well with you. And so through a conversation, it was decided that they would draw up such a civil compact for the benefit of them all. And this is how the Mayflower Compact, that's now censored from public high school textbooks and
they don't teach this anymore.
University campuses.
This is our real history, and they're keeping it from our kids now.
For the glory of God, the advancement of the Christian faith, the honor of king and country, in the name of God and one another, we covenant and combine ourselves together as a civil body politic for a better ordering and preservation, for the furtherance of the ends aforesaid, that is, those three things at the top that are now censored from public high school textbooks and scorned in colleges. And then it summarizes, I'm summarizing here, the rest of the Mayflower Compact says that this compact gives those organized the power to enact laws, ordinances, and offices for the general benefit of the colony, and to elect our own leaders. This aligns with ancient wisdom from the book of Exodus, but select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, are trustworthy
men or women
who hate dishonest gain, and let them rule over you, or serve you as your rulers, is more accurately said. Well, these ideas 20 years later were taken by Thomas Hooker, a pastor himself, and he took a group of pilgrims up to the Connecticut area to settle, and he wrote the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, which became the precursor to the first state constitution for Connecticut, which became the precursor to other state constitutions, which became the precursor to the federal constitution. And in this whole line of ideas of covenant making for civil governments and civil documents, the U.S. Constitution in the preamble concludes with these words at the bottom of your screen: we ordain and establish this Constitution, for the items on the list above it. And so the Mayflower Compact is the fountainhead of a stream that leads through town constitutions, state constitutions, and even to our federal Constitution. And so the Pilgrim story of self-government as expressed in the Mayflower Compact is an important story for all of us. My name is Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so it's an important story, and they've kept it out of our history. It was from the 1600s. There's a Mayflower Church here in Minneapolis area, and there's descendants all over. I think Clint Eastwood's family I think his family had people in the Mayflower country. I remember reading that about him one time. Okay, but so it talks about a covenant or a compact, and then of course God talks about the the Abrahamic covenant. Okay, okay, so I'm just going to read a couple scriptures here. Let's see. Okay. So, God promised Abraham the land of Canaan, which is the Israel and several regions close to there, Jordan, Syria. Okay. So we've believed for centuries now, and we've known that is where God is going to reestablish His kingdom eventually, is Israel, and we've known this, But there's His people in the Abrahamic Jacob lineage, scattered all over the countries, and it says that would happen. It says that He will. Okay. The promise of the land of Canaan as an everlasting possession to Abraham and his descendants. Okay, established in a covenant with them. This promise is a cornerstone at the relationship between God and Abraham, and it plays a significant role in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions, because a lot of the Islamic Muslim people are in the Abrahamic covenant too. That's why Trump did the Abraham Accords, because when Abraham had a child with Tamar, that child was still, his father was still Abraham. Okay, so when him and Sarah could not have a child, then they had agreed, okay, let's see if she can conceive for you. It was their maid, Hagar, and she had Ishmael. Okay, and then that whole, the whole Muslim Islamic religion was based kind of on that whole story. But they still have the father of Abraham. Okay, so that's why there was the Abrahamic Accords. Genesis 15:18-21. God made a covenant with Abraham, stating that He would give the land of Canaan to his descendants. Okay, and then Okay, and his descendants are scattered. It's the Abrahamic Jacob bloodline are the descendants. we're in the bloodline that he's referring to, which is the Abrahamic Jacob bloodline. I'm in that bloodline, and we've had to be scattered because of persecution. We've been scattered all over 400 different nations or whatever it says. I mean, for 400 years, it says, they'll be scattered, but then that will eventually be brought back. Okay, but the Abrahamic covenant is not the only covenant. So there was other covenants here, and this is really important because hardly anybody's talking about this. Okay, it wasn't just the Abraham covenant. There was the Noahic covenant in Genesis 9:11, where God promises never to destroy the earth with a flood again, using the rainbow as a sign of this covenant. The Abrahamic covenant in Genesis 12:1-3, God promises Abraham's numerous descendants a great nation and blessing for all nations through his offspring. This covenant is further emphasized through the sign of circumcision. Okay. And then there was the Mosaic covenant, Exodus 19-24. God gives the law, including the 10 Commandments, to the Israelites at Mount Sinai, establishing a covenant relationship with them. This covenant highlights obedience to God's law as a condition to your blessings. Okay, then there was the Davidic covenant, 2 Samuel 7:11-16. God promises that a descendant of David will reign forever, establishing a royal lineage and a lasting kingdom. New covenant, Jeremiah 31:31-34, Hebrews 8:8-13. God promises a new covenant written on the hearts of believers, emphasizing a deeper relationship with God through Jesus Christ. This covenant fulfills the promises of the previous covenants and offers forgiveness of sins. Then there was the Eden covenant in Genesis 1:28, God's initial covenant with humanity in the Garden of Eden, emphasizing their responsibility to be fruitful, multiply, and care for their creation. Okay, then there was a covenant of works, a concept that highlights the idea of earning salvation through perfect obedience to God, which was ultimately broken by through Lilith, disobeying and eating the fruit, and Lucifer. Covenant of grace, God's gracious provision of salvation through Jesus Christ, who fulfilled the covenant of works and atoned for humanity's sins. That was when Jesus died on the cross to fulfill humanity's sins. He was the atoning sacrifice for our sins. That's why when he died, there was an earthquake, and his blood went down into Golgotha in the Ark of the Covenant. His blood flowed down through the cracks, and it landed on the right seat of the Ark of the Covenant. It was right under, God had placed it there 200 years prior, or something like that, and it was, and his blood became our atoning sacrifices for our sin. And they don't teach this part in church either. You can find that information on Ron Wyatt's information. Ron Wyatt talks about this, and he was a biblical archaeologist. Okay, so Ron Wyatt's museum was in Tennessee. I don't know but you can find a lot of his videos and his biblical archaeology that he did online on YouTube. Okay, so I want to talk about this today. And obviously there's a lot going on here in America, and there's we have reestablished on a spiritual level, we've reestablished the covenant with God here, and we understand the importance of that. And so and we already had a covenant back in the 1600s when they established that covenant here, when they came over. So we reestablished the covenant. It's important to reestablish the covenant with God on your land, and we've done that here. Okay.